Continuing our coverage of the 2021 municipal elections, and joining me now in the studio is Wendell, who is running in Bloomfield for the Bloomfield City Council, position 3, which is a 2-year term. Mr. Wendell, good morning. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Good to have you here to talk a little bit about your campaign for the Bloomfield City Council. And so, what made you decide to run?
I've lived in Bloomfield now for about 20 years. After I retired from the Air Force, I moved back to the area. And I think in past years that the City Council has not necessarily lied to the people, but tend to lead them astray on some issues that have come up recently. And I think that across the board in America, I think that politicians forget who they work for. As a politician, you work for the people. And you should listen to what the people have to say and do what's right for the people. Right. Understood. Can you give us some specifics as to some of the things you're referring to? One of the biggest things in recent history that came up was a vote for gross receipts tax that happened several years ago. Okay. A lot of people were campaigning for it, saying that they were going to hire some more firefighters. The
tax would be used to help pay for the additional firefighters. I remember that discussion.
Yes. Mm-hmm. What they had some full-time firefighters there that were grant funded.
That was running out.
The grant ran out, and there was a big push for this gross receipt tax. I think it was 0.025% something. It was a small amount.
That's right. But still an increase. Which got folks' attention. Sure.
Right. But a lot of people looked at it and said, if we're going to get some firefighters out of it, that would be great.
Right.
The firefighters never got hired.
The vote passed. The tax
passed, but the firefighters didn't get hired. Now, although nobody, as far as I know, on the city council said, yes, this is what we're going to do. We're going to use that money for firefighters. They didn't try to stop anybody from voting for it or pushing it and saying the vote's going to be or the money's going to be set aside for firefighters.
Gotcha. So that's concerned you.
Yeah, it did, because the fire department works on an ISO rating, which is an insurance service organization, and that directly affects our citizens. Many years ago, Bloomfield went to a 2 ISO, which from a 3, which actually saved all the taxpayers about $60 a year in fire insurance.
Right.
They did that because hard work and dedication by the firefighters themselves, but they had those extra paid positions. They had the people that responded right off the bat to these big calls, and that was able to save our taxpayers that money. If that reverts because we don't have the paid staff now, the citizens are going to be out money.
Understood. So that's one.
One.
Anything else that comes to mind?
Not that I can think of right off the top of my head. A lot of it that concerns me deals with public safety.
Okay.
The county recently took over the fire department. I personally feel that was a huge benefit for Bloomfield.
Right.
It provided extra people to respond to these calls right off the bat. The first 15, 20 minutes on scene of a fire department is the important part. The county stepping in, doing that really helped out. And I know there was a big push to stop it because Bloomfield has always had their own fire department. As far back as I can remember,
Sure.
Bloomfield has been in charge of their fire department. And Bloomfield has come a long way. George Duncan, John Moeller, a lot of the old timers, as we call them,
right,
as I am, did a lot of work to do that, to get that department where it was. But when you look at the future and what's best for our citizens, again, if we could have a bad response, heart attack, something like that, it's a whole lot better to have 4 or 5 people going than 2.
Sure.
And that's basically what Bloomfield mans right now, is they try to keep a full crew, but they actually have only 1 paid staff per shift.
Gotcha. Even with the county taking
now, with the county
over.
taking over, that provides a division chief out there that will automatically respond, and the county actually has 2 division chiefs that are quote unquote stationed in Bloomfield that work out of Bloomfield. So
I see.
there's a big scene. You're going to have, minimum 5, 6 firefighters there, let alone the medical crew that shows up.
Right. And so I would guess that what we're talking about really boils down to dollars and cents, right? I mean, it's expensive to have your own fire department, and so the idea and the pitch was, if the county can help with some fire protection services, the cost to the citizens and city of Bloomfield would be less.
Yeah, it works out, I think, about the same, but it's the level of service we get for that dollar amount. Maintenance on the equipment, I know, was a big thing. Give you a little bit of background. I recently retired from the fire service after 43 years in the service.
Right.
I was the district chief at Blanco and Navajo Dam. So I worked very closely with the firefighters of Bloomfield. And talking to them about equipment, power equipment, fire trucks and all that going down. And, the county has dedicated fire truck mechanics. City of Bloomfield doesn't have that.
Sure.
So maybe the county is able to provide better maintenance of all the equipment than the city is. I'm not trying to badmouth the city mechanics by far. I'm sure they do an awesome job to keep everything up as best they can.
Sure.
But when you have a dedicated crew of, I think the county's got 5 or 6 mechanics that work nothing but on fire trucks and emergency equipment,
Right.
I would think they'd be able to do a better job.
Sure. Well, that's pretty specialized equipment too, I
Yes,
would
it
think,
is.
as well. Not being a mechanic myself, but at least I think I know that much. So,
Yes.
But there
Yes.
you go. And so it sounds like that's a big concern for you, and maybe one of the reasons that you're running is to kind of keep an eye on that. Anything else about the city's finances that concerns you about? It's pretty lean, I think, these days, not just for Bloomfield, but for a lot of communities
every place is very
across
lean.
our country, right?
Yes. And I think that across the board, Bloomfield has really balanced their budget on the knife edge and really hasn't tried to put any money aside. And I know, that certain funds, certain budgets, you can't move across to put out elsewhere and all that stuff. And I know that, New Mexico statutes provide you from doing some of this stuff. But I think we need to, across the board, look at how we could better spend the money to benefit our citizens. We work for the citizens. That's what we need to be there for, is, look at what we're providing them.
Right. Very true. Talk to me a bit about your opponent. Anything that separates you from...
I have
from
actually
them?
never met the man. He's probably in the same boat as I am. What we're both trying to accomplish is to make Bloomfield a better place to live, make it better for our kids, our grandkids. There's crazy stuff going on in the world right now. And I think that it's a start for the citizens to step forward and say, okay, hold on a minute. Maybe me taking the extra time out to do my best for the community, why not give it a shot? He might do he might do better than I do. I don't know. As far as I know, he's never run. I have never run for city council. I'd really like to meet him, and either way, I will eventually.
Right.
If I win or don't win.
Right. I imagine that's true. Very true. If folks want to reach out to you to learn more about you, or maybe ask you a question that I haven't asked you this morning, what's the best way for a potential voter to do that?
I have a Facebook page, Wayne Wendell for Bloomfield City Council. Look me up on Facebook. You can message me on Facebook. I have a small business. You could look at my business Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. I kind of have tied down. But my business one is open. That's Wayne's Woodworks NM. And like I said, I do have my city council one, and I look at that every day, 2-3 times a day, to see if anybody's messaged me in that.
Okay. Very good. Mr. Wendell, I appreciate you coming in this morning to talk with me about the campaign in the city of Bloomfield. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being here.